How's it going, everyone? Anthony here from MTG Alpha, and I think I have finally done it. I finally built the perfect Aristocrat deck. So I've been working on an Aristocrat style deck for a while now. I was playing Aristocrats in Standard during the Guild of Ravnica block, and I knew I wanted to do something along those lines for Commander. So I took that deck, I made Judith the Commander, I tried to kind of work it out there, didn't quite work out. Corvold comes out from Throne of Eldraine, and then I'm like, all right, this is going to be how we're going to do our sacrifice style deck. Come to realize Corvold's actually much better in a landfall deck, so I went and turned that into a landfall deck, which is really fun. However, it didn't really do it for me. I discovered Jury along the way, and then made Jury the commander. And as you know, I've been tweaking that deck for a while, and it was pretty strong, but it is definitely one of my favorite decks to play for sure. But it didn't really do it. It didn't have as much synergy and consistency as I knew it could have. I knew there was a lot of potential. I knew we needed a good Mardu commander. We had to get white in there. I did try to build an Aristocrat deck with just white and black Orzhov colors with Tessa, and it was kind of boring. It was just too much white, and it was just kind of boring. Definitely possible to do it like with that, but I knew we needed all three colors. We needed the red, we needed the white, and the black. And thanks to the Fallout set, we were gifted Caesar, Legion's Emperor, which is, in my opinion, the best commander for Aristocrats, and this is why. I have quite a few decks. I have like a top 10 of decks, and what I've realized is how much the deck's power and synergy relies on your commander. For example, Bilbo is great for life gain, but there's not a whole lot that you can do with your commander being out, and so you're relying more on your 99, which means you're relying more on card draws and tutors, and it's just there's too many pieces that needs to keep that deck going to make it consistent. It's all about consistency, right? Caesar has so many things built into this card that it just kind of ties everything together, and the consistency is wonderful. You can check the full deck list in the description. It's on Moxfield, so you could do some simulation runs with it. But it's just so smooth. It's so smooth. The reason why Caesar only costs 4 is a 4/4. And whenever you attack, so you don't need to have your commander out for him to work. Basically, I should say, the ability, if you have a unit or a creature out and you cast your commander is going to work immediately. You don't need to wait a turn to tap it. You don't need to wait to attack with it. Jared, Bilbo, Corvold. It just works when it's out. So whenever you attack, you may sacrifice another creature. We have our sacrifice triggers built right into it. So we have sacrifice. Whenever you do, you choose to create 2 1/1 red and white soldier creature tokens with haste that are tapped and attacking. So we're creating 2 tokens on each combat. So we get the ETB triggers, we get the dying triggers, we have our sacrifice triggers, our token doublers, token triggers. You could also choose to draw a card and lose a life, so we're drawing cards. Great. Keep this thing going. Or you could also choose to have Caesar deal damage equal to the number of creature tokens you control, and that's going back to its original ability. So we can build up our token board state. There's tons of synergy with that, tons of cards in the 99 that'll help with that. Lots of ETB triggers, sacrifice triggers, and then we can build up a wide board state with just Caesar out himself, and then later on just start dealing damage direct to our opponents. It's average 7 tokens at a time. It's really easy to get an average 7 tokens, so you're dealing 7 damage directly, plus everything else. I mean, this is it. This is the Mardu Aristocrat commander. So I'm gonna try to make this quick. I don't want the videos to go on for too long. Again, the full deck list is in the description. Just wanted to give a quick intro to this deck. Let's go ahead and run through quickly our ramp that we have in the deck. Lotus Petal with the sacrifice synergy there. Works with Jury, works with Mayhem Devil. Soul Ring, of course. Calling the Weak, costs 1, sacrifice a creature. Add 4 black to your mana pool. So we get our sacrifice synergies there. Arcane Signet, of course. Jet Medallion. It's a lot. This deck is mostly black. It's like over 50% black pips, black cards. So of course we have the Jet Medallion. Dockside Extortionist to get our treasure tokens. We do have some treasure synergies in here. We could win the game with treasures with Revel in Riches. Another card that won't be too bad if you want. You could do like Caesar with that new Outlaw commander and weaponize your treasures and then make your treasures into creatures to get the creature sacrificing triggers, and you know, could definitely go that route as well. Lean more into the treasures, but of course we have to have Dockside Extortionist. ETB, create X treasures where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. Commander Sphere for card draw, sacrificing triggers. Ashnod's Altar for sacrifice triggers and potential infinite combos. Sack a creature, get 2 colorless. Phyrexian Altar, sack a creature, get 1 mana of any color. So sacrifice trigger, more potential infinite combos. Mahadi Emporium Master. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn. So now we have our treasure synergies. We're destroying lots of creatures. We're at least guaranteeing that creatures are dying on our side of the battlefield. And then we're getting treasures yeah, obviously. Pitiless Plunderer, more treasure synergy. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a treasure token. I mean, just at what you've seen so far, all these cards are working together with each other, and we're keeping this just gas, absolute gas. Revel in Riches, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. This was like a bulk rare for a while, especially when it came out, but you know, 10 treasures back in Ixalan was like, okay, you know, we can maybe try to like work our way towards that, but Dockside Extortionist, Ancient Copper Dragon, Mahadi, Pitiless Plunderer, it's like there's just so much. It's so easy to get to 10 treasures nowadays, plus token doublers. So this card's gone up in price now, but whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, create a colorless treasure token. Same thing as Pitiless Plunderer, costs 1 more. It's dependent on your opponent's creatures, and you also get a win con out of it. Ancient Copper Dragon. When it deals combat damage to a player, roll a d20. You create a number of treasure tokens equal to the result. Yeah, obviously. We do have some X spells in here as well, because this deck does do really well with generating tokens, treasure tokens. And what are we going to dump it into? So we have a couple ways to dump all that mana into things. Skull Clamp to get 2 cards, draw 2 cards. These are our card draws and tutors. Has an additional cost to cast a spell, sack an artifact or creature, draw 2 cards, and then create a treasure token. Valakut Awakening. You can come in tapped as a land. Otherwise, put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library, then draw that many cards plus 1. If we have the mana for it and we really just, you know, need to draw 1 card for 3, fine, you know. Dark Prophecy. Whenever a creature you control dies, you draw a card and lose a life. Really good. This card was actually doing really well. I've toyed with playing with this card for a while, and it just obviously makes sense in this deck, especially with Caesar out. So we sack a creature, we get to draw a card and lose a life. Maybe we want to draw another card and lose another life with Caesar, but maybe we want to use the other 2 abilities, and essentially we just got to activate all 3 of Caesar's abilities. Vampiric Tutor, 1 mana instant tutor. Diabolic Intent, another tutor, has additional cost, sacrifice a creature for that synergy, those triggers from sacrificing. Demonic Tutor. Deadly Rollick, so this is going to be our removal. If you control your commander, which is easy, our commander costs 4. You can play this without paying its mana cost. Exile target creature for free. Otherwise, we're going to pay 4 for it at instant speed. Still pretty good card. D-Spark. So this is more, there's lots of ways to deal with our opponent's creatures. There's probably more removal in here than you need to. It just makes the deck that more aggressive. I've noticed that this deck is borderline salty to play against with all of the removal, and just it's kind of oppressive. But exile target permanent with CMC 4 or greater. So now we have ways, because we're in white, to deal with, you know, other permanents, removing other permanents, not just creatures. We have Snuff Out. Can't believe I found this card in a bunch of bulk. I looked at the card and I'm like, this card is pretty cool looking, but I didn't realize how expensive it is, which is great because I wouldn't spend that much on a card individually. I like pulling them or finding them, but Snuff Out is an instant speed for 4. If you control a swamp, you can just pay 4 life instead, so it's free to cast then in that case, and then destroy target non-black creature, can't be regenerated. Pretty good removal. Vana's Hunger costs 3 at instant speed. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. If you have the City's Blessing, each opponent sacrifices half the creatures they control rounded up. You could also throw Turgid in here. I had Turgid in the previous Aristocrat builds, but took her out because, I don't know, it's kind of overkill, and it kind of is just, it's just kind of overkill. I just wanted to like stick to just one thing. I didn't want to like be all over the place and piss people off left, right, and center. So Toxic Deluge has an additional cost to cast a spell. Pay X life. All creatures get -X until end of turn. But we're losing so much life right now with Dark Prophecy and Caesar and Snuff Out, you know, now Toxic Deluge. We're cutting it really close to losing life. Oh, just wait a minute. It's okay. We got our gains and drains in here, so that's how we're going to win. Braid's Arisen Nightmare. If our opponents, that's how we're winning if our opponents don't concede. This deck is, I'm telling you, try it out. This deck's fun. I'm going to have a full deck list in the description. If you want to purchase the deck on TCG Player, it would obviously help me out and help out the channel if you use that affiliate link. Or if you want to just, so I mean, you could purchase the whole deck with that link in the description. Otherwise, if you want to just grab some singles or whatever, if you do decide to do that, if you're going to buy the cards anyways, it still helps me out. And yeah, I'd definitely appreciate that. But Braid's Arisen Nightmare, at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with it. Now, for each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 and you draw a card. So it's kind of tough. It's more of a difficult decision for them. Do they want you to draw a card and they lose life, or do they want to just sacrifice a permanent? Which, tough decisions. Phyrexian Obliterator falls into our removal category here for 4 black, 5/5 with trample. Whenever a source deals damage to Phyrexian Obliterator, that source's controller sacrifices that many permanents. No Mercy. Whenever a creature deals damage to you, destroy it. No Mercy is correct. We have Damnation, classic board wipe here. Dictate of Erebos. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Huh? It happens every turn. Every turn. It's very consistent. Ruinous Ultimatum. Destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. The saltiness of the removal. I kind of, if you want to be nice to people, take out some of the removal in this deck because you're already dealing enough damage with the sacrificing and things like that. Just take out some of the removal and add some other fun cards that you want to add. But if you want to be aggressive, you want to win some games, some tournaments, and be salty and make people angry, then just go ahead and check this full deck list out. Archon of Cruelty, it's kind of a pet card, but I do recognize the power in this card here. It costs a lot at 8. It's a 6/6 flyer though, and it'll guarantee that we can at least attack every turn. We're going to be attacking with the tokens. They don't have to deal damage to activate Caesar's ability. We just have to attack. We have so many 1/1s that we can spare. So whenever Archon of Cruelty enters the battlefield or attacks, target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, discards a card, and loses 3 life. You get to draw a card and gain 3 life. We do want to get to gain some life. This deck, I mean, the card draw is very consistent. We have a full grip easily. All right, so now for our tokens. These are all of the tokens that we're going to be sacrificing and generating, getting the ETB triggers off of, and we'll check out some of the other synergy. This is a White Bitter Blossom. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose a life and you create a 1/1 Phyrexian Might artifact creature token with Toxic 1, and this creature can't block. We don't care if it blocks. We do want to attack with it, or we just want to build up an army and sack it and double our tokens and blah blah blah. Also, if an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, creatures you control with Toxic have lifelink, so gaining life would be nice. Charismatic Conqueror, Vigilance, 2/2. Whenever an artifact or creature enters the battlefield untapped under an opponent's control, they may tap that permanent. If they don't, you get to create a 1/1 white vampire creature token with lifelink, so we can gain our life and we can generate tokens from our opponents. It's gonna be great in 4-player. Bitter Blossom, lose a life, create a fairy, flying. Black Market Connections, we get to pay 1, 2, or 3 life. Create a treasure token, draw a card and lose 2, or create a 3/2 shapeshifter token with changeling, you lose 3 life. Can you believe that that token costs like $6? I don't have it. But there's 2 2s out there, 3 2 tokens. Bastion of Remembrance, when it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 human. Now we get into our, this is gaining and draining. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1, you gain 1. Cabal, this is such a good, I really, really, really like this card. I might build a deck around it. I already built something in Arena for Brawl. It is so much fun. Whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under an opponent's control, for each of them, create a tap token that's a copy of it. This ability triggers only once a turn. However, if they're going to be generating 6 elves in a single turn, you're going to get 6 elves in a single instance. And then whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 and you gain 1. So they generate 6 elves, you get the 6 elves because that's the first time it triggered. You gain 6 life, they lose 6 life. Pretty good. Plus whatever your other ETB triggers happen to be, but in whatever your doublers are. Ophiomancer, at the beginning of each upkeep, if you control no snakes, create a 1/1 black snake with Death Touch, some nice evasion. Lagomos, Hand of Hatred, an excellent card in here. At the beginning of combat in your turn, create a 2/1 red elemental creature token with Trample and Haste. These work really well with each other. We get our token, we can attack with it. We also get the sacrifice trigger off of it. We sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. And then you could also tap to search your library for a card, put it into your hand. Nice tutor. Only if 5 or more creatures die this turn, which is extremely easy to do. So great tutor built into an uncommon, perfect for this deck. Super high synergy. Outlaw's Merriment, cost 4. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose 1 at random. You get to create a 3/1 human warrior with Trample Haste, a 2/1 human cleric with Lifelink and Haste, or a 1/2 human rogue with Haste, and when it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 to any target. Really great card. Alenda, the Dusk Rose. I mean, because of white, we're getting a lot of opportunities for lifelink here. Whenever another creature dies, any creature, put a 1/1 counter on Alenda, and then when Alenda dies, create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is Alenda's power. Lots of tokens there. Thalis, Reverent Medium. At the beginning of each end step, create X 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of tokens you created this turn. It's a token doubler that triggers at your end step, but you're getting 1/1 flying spirits instead of whatever else you generated, which, I mean, it's going to be equivalent to a 0/1 kobold. It's going to be equivalent to a 0/1 thrall, a 1/1 soldier, a 1/1 Phyrexian might. So better in this deck that it creates spirits if you're gonna, but not necessarily a token doubler if you're looking at adding this to like Jared or something, because it's not doubling your 4/4 rhinos with trample. You're just getting the 1/1 spirits, which is more mid than anything. But in this deck, it's essentially a doubler but better. So great for an uncommon at 5. Tevish Zot, you get to uptick it to create 2 0/1 thralls, which could also be used to defend your planeswalker. And then next turn, you can sacrifice one of them to draw 2 cards. And yeah, you can all hit the ultimate and gain control of all commanders. Put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield, but for the most part, card draw and token generating. Grave Titan, feels like this card's getting less and less powerful as time goes on. However, I still like it. 6 mana, 6/6 with Death Touch, ETB, create 2/2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Also, whenever it attacks, you also get to create the 2/2/2s. Liliana, whenever creature you control dies, draw a card. Card draw, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Tokens generation. Each player sacrifices 2 creatures, removal and sacrifice triggers, and then the ultimate, each opponent chooses a permanent they control and of each permanent type and sacrifice the rest. So more sacrifice triggers if you do hit the ultimate. All right, so now for our synergy and our doubling effects in this deck, we have Ishin to Heavens as 1. If a creature attacking will cause a triggered ability of a permanent you control, that ability triggers an additional time. So a creature attacks, Caesar's ability triggers, you may sacrifice a creature, choose to, triggers again, you may sacrifice a creature, choose two. 2 sacrifice triggers, generate 4 tokens, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, or deal damage equal to the number of creature tokens you control the target opponent twice. That could be 14 damage direct, plus ETB triggers, sacrificing triggers. Excellent card for this deck. Anointed Processions, of course. If you create a token, you create that many instead, twice that many. Tessa Karlov. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, triggers an additional time. So we have our Pitiless Plunderers, we have our all of our gain and drain effects. And creature tokens you control have Vigilance and Lifelink. So that Lifelink is great. Mondrak is Anointed Processions, except it's a creature, except it also has some sacrifice synergy built into it. You get to pay 1 and 2 Fire Crusade white to sacrifice 2 other artifacts and or creatures to put an indestructible counter on it. Technically, you can do that whenever you want, so you can pay life or the mana for it and to just sacrifice 2 creatures on demand. That's not bad. Drivnod Carnage of Dominus is Tessa Karlov, but in black. It has 8 power and 3 toughness. 2 Phyrexian, black. Exile 3 creature cards from your graveyard to put an indestructible counter on it. Literally the same thing as Tessa, much more expensive though. And now for our gain and drains. We saw some of them with like Bastion of Remembrance and things like that, but Zulaport Cutthroat, whenever it or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 and you gain 1. That can be doubled by Drivnod, that could be doubled by Tessa. So all these cards can be doubled by those. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. And then whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life, double. Blood Artist, another creature dies, target opponent loses 1, you gain 1, double. Cruel Celebrant, same thing. Jury, when you sack a permanent, put a 1/1 counter on Jury, and when Jury dies, you could deal damage equal to its power to any target. Mayhem Devil, whenever any player sacrifices a permanent, deal 1 to any target. We have Sir Conrad the Grim. When another creature dies, double, is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature leaves your graveyard, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. You can also pay 2 to make each player mill a card, which with the amount of treasures we generate, you could actually start dumping that into Sir Conrad and just make people mill if you want. Mirkwood Bats, whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses a life. And then Meat Hook Massacre for our sort of board wipey removal, but also whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1. Whenever a creature an opponent control dies, you gain 1. So that is Caesar, Legion's Emperor. Full deck list in the description. If you want to grab some singles on TCG Player or purchase the entire deck, I'll have the affiliate link in the description. I do appreciate any support. We did just hit 1,000 subscribers, so I gotta do something. We gotta do a giveaway or something, but you can join the Discord. We're always sharing some like deck lists, and we have like a brewing channel in there, so come check it out. Let me know what you would do with this deck. Are there any cards that you would like to swap out? Is there anything that might have some good synergy I'm not thinking about? Or, you know, what are your favorite cards in this deck? Like, what are some things that you were a little surprised about? So I hope you enjoy watching. Until next time, peace.